Okay, so all right. Hey. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? So this is my little podcast, and it's going to be on social cognitive theory. And when thinking about social cognitive theory, one can just simply stem it from the idea that people learn through observation and practice. They watch, and results they see them, right? They see what's going on, they see the results of the action, and then continue to change their actions based on what happens. I felt like Dr. Seuss there. I won't lie. This also stems from the idea of ABC learning, right? And the antecedent, behavior, then consequence, which a lot of ABA practitioners utilize, including myself in my RBT work. Regardless, a lot of ABA therapy stems from that concept of social cognitive theory. People learn by watching, they learn by seeing what results come from their actions, right? Social cognitive theory, or the concept of learning by watching, was first formulated by Neil Miller and John Donald in 1941. Later on in the 1960s, theories such as the theory of limitation and modeling took place, right? Which is another amazing ABA concept that I'll talk about later. And that was because of Albert Bandura. A lot of you may be wondering, hey, what about applying it to differentiated instruction? And so what I'll say to you folks is that, first of all, for those who may not know what differentiated instruction is, it's just simply the ideal of tailoring a teaching approach to the diverse needs of each student. Operating conditioning is another method utilized. For instance, it is the ABC structure, right? A lot of children who have ASD, like where learning and consequences and reinforcers that alter behavior, know like what preferred versus non-preferred behaviors based on this loop can create. This in turn also introduced the idea of vicarious punishment or vicarious enforcement, meaning the effects of a punishment, which stops or lowers the amount of behaviors, versus a reinforcement, which increases the likelihood of those behaviors. In an early 1965 study by Bandura, children were introduced to the model, and the model basically was punching a blow up doll, right? One group was not asked, but shown a consequence to the action. Another group showed reinforcement to the action, and then the final group wasn't shown any consequence or reinforcement. And in the end of the day, those who were shown the consequence or the punishment, they were the least aggressive to the blow up doll. The other two groups were way more aggressive because they saw that nothing can happen if you were to hit the doll, right? It was shown that like another research approach was from the idea of modeling, which I talked about before, and it's just showing the correct behavior and having the recipient copy that behavior. And there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize it, and there's a lot of behaviors that you can create from that behavior, not that behavior from that model, right? Modeling. They help teach new behaviors, help increase the frequency of previous behaviors, can even encourage behaviors that are forbidden, right? For instance, a parent were to model that, hey, you can't be doing XYZ in the house, but another student may model that it's okay to be doing those forbidden behaviors that your parent modeled against. Anyway, so depending on the person, modeling a behavior can have a social behavior effect to the recipient of that modeling. How can this type of learning create activities, foster student engagement, and be utilized enough through differentiated teaching, right? It already happens. Science experiments first that utilize step-by-step processes are modeling based. Uh, when teachers set rules and expectations, students know the consequences and reinforcements for following the rule versus not following the rules. Um, and even punishment and reinforcement feedback loops. Those are always used. Those are used in homes, at schools. For instance, you do a bad behavior, you can't have recess. You don't do this homework, you can't have recess. Things like that are always utilized and proven to be effective in the classroom. If someone gets an action or a consequence, either good or bad, is going to reinforce that behavior or stop that behavior. It happens. It's natural, and that's what makes us be able to learn and grow. So, yeah, that's social cognitive theory. Thank you so much for watching. I honestly chose this theory because I relate to it as a person who has received tons of different consequences for their actions, made tons of mistakes, and over in time, I grew and I thought about those mistakes, right? And then I changed how I am as a person so I can improve myself and not make those mistakes again in the future. So I can be growing and growing and growing stronger. Anyway, I'm going to start rambling on. Here are the references above. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, or morning, or afternoon. Goodbye!